We're all familiar with Moana's story, the brave girl who defied her village's fears, sailed into the unknown, and restored balance to the world. But as captivating as her journey is, a question lingers. Was Moana real? Was there truly a girl who crossed the vast Pacific to reunite a goddess with her heart? Or is her story a reflection of something far greater, a legend woven from the collective spirit of an entire culture? The truth is, Moana is not one person's tale, but the echo of 1,000 voices. Her story draws from the rich heritage of Polynesian myths, the daring history of Wayfinders, and the unshakable bond between the people and the sea. Moana represents the heart of a culture that has always listened to the ocean's call, a culture whose legends and history are inseparable, much like the girl in the ocean she loved. Moana's story may be fictional, but it is deeply rooted in the reality of Polynesian culture, a tapestry of myths, traditions, and historical achievements that stretches back over 1,000 years. But Moana's story does more than entertain. It invites us to explore a deeper connection, to see the ocean not just as a setting, but as a symbol of courage and identity, to understand that the call to adventure isn't just about where we go, but about remembering who we are. So as we dive into the legend behind Moana, let's journey beyond the reef, beyond the horizon, to uncover the myths, history, and spirit that breathe life into this tale. Dawn breaks over Motunui, a jewel set in the vast expanse of the Pacific. The first rays of sunlight dance across the lagoon, painting the water in shades of gold and pearl. As the island stirs to life, the scent of salt mingles with the sweet fragrance of tiar flowers and the earthy aroma of taro fields after rain. "Kalahikiola," whispers a fisherman to his daughter as they prepare their canoe, "the sun that brings life." The ancient Hawaiian greeting carries the wisdom of generations who have lived in harmony with these waters. Along the shore, others begin their daily rituals. Some mend nets with practiced fingers, while others scan the horizon for signs that will guide their fishing. In the heart of the village, life moves to an ancient rhythm. A master carver shapes a new vial with slow, deliberate strokes, his tools singing against the wood as he works. Each cut honors the traditions passed down from his ancestors. Samoan techniques for the hull's curve, Tongan patterns etched into the bow. Near him, 3 women create tapa cloth, their mallets striking in perfect synchronization, the beaten bark gradually transforming into canvas for stories yet to be told. E hanamua, e pa akekahua, Akumu shares with her students as they tend to the taro patches. First, build the foundation. The wisdom rings true across all island cultures, where every skill is both practical and sacred. In Fiji, they speak of verokorokovi, the respect that binds communities together. In Samoa, they live by fa'aloalo, the way of showing dignity and honor. As the sun climbs higher, children gather beneath the shade of an ancient breadfruit tree. Their grandmother's voice carries on the breeze as she teaches them to read the ocean's moods. "See how the waves break there?" She points to where white caps dance against the reef. That's where Tangaroa shows us the safe passage, just as he showed our ancestors who first found these shores. In the village Failtele, the meeting house built in traditional Samoan style, elders gather to discuss matters of importance. The round structure itself tells a story. Its posts represent the founding ancestors. Its circular shape echoes the inclusive nature of island leadership, where every voice carries weight in the circle of decision. The day unfolds like a complex dance, each movement governed by knowledge accumulated over generations. Women weave pandanus leaves into mats, their patterns telling stories of their island's histories. Young warriors practice their steps, their movements an unbroken link to ancient traditions. Even the children's games, string figures that map the stars, chants that name the winds, are lessons wrapped in play. As afternoon fades to evening, smoke rises from cooking fires, carrying the aroma of fresh fish wrapped in banana leaves, ufi roasted in earth ovens, and the sweet promise of ripe mangoes. Families gather, their meals more than sustenance. They're a continuation of traditions that span the vast triangle of Polynesia, from Hawaii to Aotearoa, from Samoa to Rapa Nui. These are the rhythms of island life, not frozen in time, but alive and evolving. Each gesture, each tradition, each whispered legend adds another thread to the great tapestry of Polynesian culture. It's a world where the line between the physical and spiritual blurs, where every wave carries a story, and where the ocean is not a barrier but a bridge connecting all islanders, in an ancient web of tradition, respect, and understanding. This is the world that shaped Moana, not just one island, but a vast network of cultures bound together by salt water and starlight. A world where every child grows up knowing they are part of something greater than themselves. Night falls over the Pacific, transforming the ocean into a vast mirror of stars. The constellations above tell 1,000 stories, but none more captivating than that of Maui, the great demigod who dared to challenge the sun itself. When Maui was young, ancient legends tell, the sun raced too swiftly across the sky. The days were too short for crops to grow, for fish to dry, for life to flourish. Armed with his magical fishhook crafted from the jawbone of his ancestress, Maui climbed Haleakala, the house of the sun. There he waited for Ra, the sun, to rise. As the first rays pierced the horizon, Maui cast his line. The hook caught the sun's rays, and Maui, strong as 1,000 men, held fast. "Slow down," he commanded. "Give our people time to live, to work, to thrive." The sun struggled, but Maui's strength prevailed. From that day forward, the sun's journey became slower, giving birth to the long, gentle days that blessed the Pacific Islands. But Maui's feats extended beyond taming the sun. With his mighty fishhook, he pulled islands from the ocean's depths, creating homes for his people. Each island emerged with its own story. Some say you can still see his footprints pressed into their volcanic rocks, or trace the outline of his hook in their curved bays. Yet even Maui's legendary strength paled before the true heroes of the Pacific, the Wayfinders. These navigators read the ocean as easily as others read footprints in sand. They understood the secret language of the waves, the whispered messages in the wind, the stories written in the stars. The art of wayfinding was more than navigation, it was a sacred trust, passed down through generations. A wayfinder could feel the direction of waves against their canoe's hull, understanding how islands hidden beyond the horizon changed the ocean's rhythm. They knew how clouds gathered differently over land, how certain birds flew only so far from shore, how the stars wheeled overhead in ancient, unchanging patterns. At the heart of their craft lay a profound truth. The ocean was not a barrier, but a road. Not an adversary, but an ally. The same waters that separated islands also connected them, carrying stories, traditions, and people across vast distances. Te Fiti, the mother island, stood at the center of these ancient tales. They say her heart held the power of creation itself, the force that brought life to the seas, that gave birth to island after island. When her heart was stolen, darkness began to spread. Islands slowly died, fish vanished from the seas, and the very art of wayfinding began to fade from memory. This was the world Moana was born into, a world where ancient powers slumbered, where legends lay dormant like seeds waiting for rain. But like the wayfinders before her, she carried within her the wisdom of generations. She understood, as they did, that courage isn't about never feeling fear. It's about feeling fear and sailing on anyway. The ocean recognized this spirit in her, just as it had recognized it in countless navigators before. This was why it chose her, why it called to her, why it waited patiently for her to answer its song. Because in her heart beat the same rhythm that had guided wayfinders across the Great Pacific for thousands of years. The pulse of adventure, the echo of ancient wisdom, and the unwavering belief that beyond the horizon lay not danger, but destiny. Before metal compasses pointed north, before paper maps traced coastlines, there were the wayfinders. Picture a young navigator standing at the stern of a double-hulled canoe, their fingers trailing in the water, reading the ocean's story in every ripple and wave. This was not simply sailing. This was conversation with the sea itself. On the island of Satawal, a young Maupiailug stood beside his grandfather, learning these ancient ways. His small hands traced star patterns in the sand, as his grandfather spoke of Melap, the star path that would guide them to distant shores. Like many navigators before him, Mao began his training while still a child, lying in tide pools to memorize the ocean's rhythms, learning to feel how waves moved beneath a still canoe. "The sea swells are our road signs," his grandfather would say. Each wave held meaning, the steep, choppy waves near land, the long, rolling swells of the open ocean, the crossed patterns that spoke of nearby islands. By night, the stars became their compass. The rising of Aldebaran marked the time for voyaging to Yap. The Pleiades cluster, known as Mata'ariki to the Maori, heralded the new year and favorable winds. Consider the Hokulea's maiden voyage to Tahiti in 1976. Without modern instruments, Mao guided the vessel across 2,500 miles of open ocean. The journey took 34 days, every moment a testament to ancestral knowledge. As they approached Tahiti, Mao noticed a piece of bamboo floating in the water. To others, it was debris. To Mao, it was a sign. Bamboo grew on Tahiti's shores, and the currents had carried this piece straight to them. Hours later, the island appeared on the horizon, exactly where he said it would be. The ancient navigators developed a complex system called attack, a way of visualizing their position by tracking the movement of islands, even those beyond the horizon. They understood how birds like the manuoku never flew more than 40 miles from land, how the refraction of swells against distant islands created distinctive wave patterns, how phosphorescent plankton gathered in different patterns near coral reefs. But perhaps their greatest skill was reading the clouds. A navigator could tell you how clouds changed color differently over land than over water, how they gathered around islands in distinctive patterns. The cloud bridge, a line of clouds that seemed to connect sky and sea, often marked the presence of land beyond the horizon. These weren't just techniques, they were threads in a great cultural tapestry. When a Hawaiian navigator watched the Iwa bird's flight, they were seeing through the same eyes as their Samoan cousins watching the manutai, or their Maori relatives following the toroa. Different names, same knowledge, passed down through generations in chants, stories, and hands-on training. The revival of these ancient arts didn't end with Maui. Today, young navigators from across the Pacific are reclaiming their heritage. The Polynesian Voyaging Society continues to sail traditional routes, proving that the old ways still work. Modern wayfinders like Nainoa Thompson carry forward the torch, teaching new generations to read the ocean's ancient signs. In 2017, the Hokulea completed a 3-year voyage around the world, covering over 40,000 nautical miles. While modern technology helped ensure safety, traditional navigation guided much of their journey. Each mile sailed was a bridge between past and present. Each star cited a connection to ancestors who had looked to the same heavens for guidance. These are the traditions that inspired Moana's story. When she sets sail beyond the reef, she carries with her the knowledge of countless generations. Her journey mirrors those of real wayfinders who, time and again, proved that courage and wisdom could overcome any obstacle, that the horizon was not a boundary but an invitation, and that the greatest navigator's tool was not a compass or a map, but an understanding heart. The voyage of Pahitere, preserved in Tahitian oral tradition, began like many others, with a dream of new horizons. 3 days into their journey, storm clouds gathered, dark as bruised taro. The sea, once their ally, rose up in mountainous waves that threatened to shatter their double-hulled canoe. For 7 days and nights they battled the elements. The navigator watched helplessly as his star compass vanished behind clouds thick as night. Salt water soaked their provisions. The waves spoke in voices he had never heard before, and for the first time, he understood why some called the ocean Moana Tutahi, the relentless sea. But then he remembered his training. When the stars hide, watch the birds. When the birds vanish, read the waves. When the waves confuse, trust the wind. Every challenge was a lesson their ancestors had already learned, had already overcome. The Polynesian voyaging traditions hold many such trials. The Aotearoa Discovery Fleet, 7 great canoes setting out from Hawaii, faced the treacherous southern seas with unwavering resolve. The Tainui and Tearawa canoes sailed together, their crews sharing provisions when food grew scarce. The Aotea encountered violent storms that forced them to jettison precious cargo, yet unity and determination carried them through. These voyages demanded more than navigation skills. The Takitamu canoe's crew survived dwindling freshwater supplies by collecting morning dew, each precious drop carefully rationed. The Tokomaru's people, facing starvation, developed new fishing techniques born of desperate innovation. Methods still used today, yet the greatest trial was psychological. Imagine sailing for weeks without sight of land, watching the last known island disappear behind you, facing an horizon that offered no promise of destination. The Kurahaupo traditions tell of bitter arguments that threatened to tear crews apart until they remembered the ancient proverb, "Ekore eningaro hitakerewaka nui," we will not be lost, for we are the hull of a great canoe. These struggles forged innovations that would define Polynesian voyaging culture. The star compass, with its 32 houses of navigation, emerged from countless nights when navigators had to find their way through partial cloud cover. The practice of reading talapa, mysterious flashes of light that seemed to point toward land, was discovered during a desperate voyage when all other signs failed. The Maori settlers who reached Aotearoa faced perhaps the greatest adaptation of all. Used to tropical waters, they encountered seas cold enough to kill. Their solution? They developed new techniques for treating harakiki, flax, to create clothing warm enough for southern winters. Every crisis sparked innovation. Every challenge led to growth. The greatest triumphs often appeared in the smallest moments. A navigator spotting the first signs of land after weeks at sea, a particular seabird, a changed swell pattern, a cloud formation that spoke of islands ahead, the joy of hauling up a net full of fish when supplies ran low, children playing on deck, finding delight even in the midst of uncertainty. Some victories echoed across generations. The Hawaiians, after navigating the treacherous Alenuihaha Channel, created chants that mapped the crossing, encoding their knowledge in poetry that would guide future generations. These only still survive, carrying ancient wisdom in their rhythms. Each successful voyage added to a vast network of knowledge. The discovery of island chains, the mapping of seasonal wind patterns, the recognition of ocean swells that could guide a vessel home. These weren't just achievements, but gifts, passed down through generations in chants and stories. When Moana faces her own trials at sea, she carries the echo of these real struggles, these real triumphs. Her journey honors the countless voyagers who faced storms and doubt, hunger and fear, yet kept sailing, because they knew, as she learned, that beyond every trial lay triumph, beyond every horizon lay hope. The stars that guided ancient navigators still shine over the Pacific. On the deck of the Hokulea, modern wayfinders trace the same constellations their ancestors used, their fingers drawing paths between stars that have guided voyagers for thousands of years. This double-hulled canoe, built in 1975, bridges ancient wisdom and modern purpose. In 2014, the Hokulea embarked on its most ambitious journey yet, the Malama Honua Worldwide Voyage. For 3 years, the vessel circumnavigated the globe, covering over 40,000 nautical miles. While modern technology ensured safety, traditional navigation guided much of their journey. Each mile sailed proved what the ancestors had always known, that wisdom passed down through generations could still illuminate the way forward. This revival of traditional navigation began with one remarkable partnership. When the Polynesian Voyaging Society sought to recover lost navigation arts, they found Mau Piailug, one of the last master navigators from the tiny island of Satawal. In a culture where such knowledge was typically reserved for chosen successors, Mau made an unprecedented decision. He would share his knowledge with strangers, breaking tradition to preserve tradition. Mau's teachings transformed Nainoa Thompson, a young Hawaiian who would become the first native Hawaiian in centuries to master celestial navigation. The knowledge passed from teacher to student like a torch, illuminating not just ancient techniques but a path toward cultural renewal. This renaissance of voyaging culture rippled across the Pacific. The Hokulea's success inspired other island nations to build their own traditional vessels. Fiji launched the Utoniyalo, Samoa the Gawalofa, and Tahiti the Faiafait. Each vessel became more than transportation. They were floating classrooms, cultural ambassadors, and living proof that ancient wisdom still held value in the modern world. When Disney's creative team began shaping Moana's story, they turned to these modern wayfinders for guidance. The Oceanic Story Trust, a group of cultural advisors, historians, and navigators, ensured that every aspect of the film reflected authentic Polynesian traditions. The ocean in Moana moves like the real Pacific, its waves and currents behaving as generations of navigators have observed. The character of Maui, voiced by Dwayne Johnson, carries tattoos that tell stories in authentic Polynesian patterns. The vessels in the film mirror traditional design, from the lashed canoe bindings to the woven sails. Even the way Moana learns to wayfind reflects real techniques, reading the stars, feeling the currents, understanding the ocean's many moods. In the villages of the Pacific, children now play at being Moana, their games mixing ancient traditions with contemporary storytelling. They sing wayfinding songs that blend Disney melodies with traditional navigation chants. The film has sparked a renewed interest in cultural heritage, encouraging young people to explore their own connections to voyaging traditions. This cultural revival extends beyond navigation. Throughout the Pacific, traditional arts are finding new life. Master tattoo artists practice their craft using ancient patterns and techniques. Weavers create sails from pandanus leaves, their fingers working to rhythms unchanged for generations. Carvers shape canoes using designs passed down through centuries. The Polynesian Cultural Center in Hawaii, the National Museum of Samoa, and cultural centers across the Pacific now share these traditions with visitors from around the world. They demonstrate not just how the ancient arts survived, but how they continue to evolve and adapt. The legacy of the Wayfinders lives on in unexpected ways. Modern scientists studying Pacific weather patterns and ocean currents often find their observations matching knowledge preserved in ancient chants and stories. Climate change researchers work with indigenous communities, combining traditional ecological knowledge with contemporary science to understand environmental changes. Through Moana, millions of viewers worldwide have glimpsed the profound maritime heritage of the Pacific peoples. The film's success shows how ancient stories can speak to modern audiences, how traditional wisdom can illuminate contemporary challenges, and how the courage to voyage beyond the reef remains as relevant today as it was 1,000 years ago. The horizon still calls and new generations still answer. In harbors across the Pacific, young people gather to learn the old ways. Their eyes turn toward the same stars that guided their ancestors. They understand, as Moana did, that they are part of an unbroken chain of voyagers, dreamers, and explorers who dare to journey beyond the known world. The Pacific sun sets as it has for millennia, painting the waves in shades of gold and purple. On shores across the great ocean, a new generation of children stands at the water's edge, their eyes fixed on the horizon. Some wear Moana costumes, others grasp carved wooden boats, but all share something deeper, a connection to the ancient spirit of voyaging that has defined their culture for thousands of years. In the heart of the Pacific, traditional voyaging canoes still cross ancient paths between islands. The Hokulea's wake has sparked a renaissance, with vessels from different island nations charting courses across the ocean. Each journey adds another thread to the tapestry of Polynesian seafaring, a story as old as the islands themselves, yet as fresh as the morning tide. The wisdom of the Wayfinders echoes in unexpected places. Modern satellite data confirms what navigators have known for generations: how islands affect wave patterns, how currents flow in seasonal cycles, how clouds gather differently over land and sea. Ancient chants describing weather patterns now help scientists understand climate change in the Pacific. The knowledge preserved in story and song proves as valuable as any modern instrument. Across Hawaii, Samoa, Tonga, and beyond, cultural schools teach traditional navigation alongside modern subjects. Young people learn to read the stars using both star compass and smartphone, understanding that wisdom can flow both ways. They study the ancient protocols of the sea while using social media to connect with other young navigators across the ocean. The story of Moana resonates because it captures this bridge between past and present. When she sails beyond the reef, she carries more than just supplies and determination. She carries the accumulated knowledge of generations. Her journey mirrors the real voyages that first connected the islands of the Pacific, creating a network of shared culture that survives to this day. In harbors throughout the Pacific, master carvers still shape canoes using measurements passed down through generations. Their adzes strike wood in rhythms that echo across centuries, each blow guided by knowledge that predates written history. Nearby, apprentice navigators memorize star paths and ocean swells, adding their own observations to ancient knowledge. The maritime heritage lives on in ceremony and celebration. During the Heva I Tahiti festival, teams compete in traditional boat races, their vessels built using age-old techniques. In Samoa, the Festival of Va brings together paddlers from across the Pacific, celebrating their shared seafaring heritage. These gatherings are more than competitions. They're affirmations of cultural identity, demonstrations that ancient skills remain relevant and vital. Children now learn their heritage through multiple lenses. They hear the ancient legends from their grandparents, watch films like Moana that bring those stories to life, and perhaps even sail on traditional voyaging canoes themselves. The ocean remains their greatest teacher, as it has for countless generations. The spirit of Moana endures because it speaks to something timeless: the courage to journey beyond the familiar, the wisdom to learn from those who came before, the strength to face challenges with determination and hope. These qualities, celebrated in legend and lived in reality, continue to guide new generations across the great ocean. In the end, this is not just a story about the past or even about the present. It is about the eternal connection between people and the sea, about the courage to chase the horizon, and about the wisdom that comes from knowing who you are and where you come from. As long as the ocean calls, there will be those who answer, guided by stars above, supported by traditions below, and driven by the same spirit of exploration that first led their ancestors across the mighty Pacific.